importance of agriculture and food systems in the context of climate change. The majority of updated NDCs already include at least one related measure. However, a systemic approach to agriculture and food systems in NDCs is still lacking. The 2025 update of NDCs presents a crucial opportunity. It must not be overlooked. It offers a chance to elevate ambition levels and methodological in corporate targets related to agriculture and food systems within national climate plans. This goal is also reflected in the Emirates Declaration on Sustainable Agriculture, Resilient Food Systems and Climate Action, which also the German government has formally endorsed. In support of this goal, the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development has funded the development of an NDC guidance tool for agriculture and food systems. It is a tool that allows policymakers, that allows engineers, that allows investors to identify relevant policy options and measures to make progress towards the NDCs and the Paris Agreement targets. And I would like to congratulate the World Wildlife Fund for their excellent work to develop this tool in partnership with the FAO, with UNEP, with CGIAR, the NDC partnership, and several other organizations. So thank you very much. I'm also pleased to share that the tool is part of the United Arab Emirates COP28 Food Climate Guidance Kit. And in the coming year, we will support the rollout and piloting of this tool in several of our partner countries, including Kenya, India, Mexico, and Pakistan. I invite all to make use of the tool to support the development of ambitious NDCs that incorporate agriculture and food systems. We need, like in any other sector as well, all hands on deck for the transformation of agriculture and food systems. Jointly, we can demonstrate that an ambitious and speedy socially just transformation is feasible. And as we just talked about, we need a bit more braveness in all so that we can keep up with the speed that is needed. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. And it is wonderful, wonderful news that you will be supporting countries in their journey to apply these tools right on the ground, right at the policy level. And I'm happy to see that Mexico is one of them because that's where I'm originally from. I will now give the floor to my dear friend Martina Fleckenstein, who is the Global Director of Policy from the WWF Food Practice, who is going to officially present the tool.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And thanks, Dirk, for your nice works and also hearing that it will be a continuity. So having a tool is one thing, but I think what is important is the global outreach. And that's thanks to the German government we can do now over the next month. So thanks a lot. And also I have to say, without the support from the German government, we would not be here. So having said this, and now I need, okay, the technical things. I hope it's working. I need some technical people how to. Okay. Sorry. I made it. So this is nothing new, but I think there is a huge momentum now. And you mentioned already, we have the Emirates Declaration, which is explicitly mentioning the urgency on transformation our food system. And the Emirates Declaration also has one of the first asks is to integrate food system in the NDCs, the NAPs, and I also want to reiterate in the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plans. But it's not only the government, but declaration. There is also a non-state actor call to action, which will also be launched this week. With about more than 100 organizations and going in the same direction, and also saying we need to strengthen the NDCs and to integrate food, agriculture, and food in the NDCs. And just the last sentence is it's all about the global stock take. And at the moment, my colleagues who are in the negotiations are really fighting to have food systems in mentioned and agriculture and food system mentions in the outcome document of the global stock take. So that's also something where we really want to set some cornerstones for the next weeks, for the next years. This is something WWF is dealing with the NDCs, and we have done our first assessment in 2020, and this is from the assessment from last year. And we have analyzed all the NDCs and looking how food systems is reflected. And it calls us, or it makes hopes, because you see that at least from 2020 to 2022, there is a race, and 93% of all member states are mentioning food somehow, but mainly in context with production. What is still missing is a systemic approach. What is still missing is integrating of food loss and waste, and especially on the consumption part. And this was the reason why we have think about why is it that member states are not integrating a food system approach. And having spoken with member states, with the NDC partnership and others, we realized that there's a gap of knowledge. So very often the member states, they didn't even know what does it mean to integrate a food system and agriculture and food system approach in the NDCs. And this was then, after discussion with the colleagues from GIZ, from BMZ, and our partners with CGIAR, UNEP, FAO, and others, we concluded we need a more detailed guidance to help member states, to inspire member states to think about agriculture and food in the NDCs. And that's what we have done. So we started our and that's where we are at the moment. So we have developed the guidance. The guidance has 5 intervention areas, and this is food environment, food governance, it's the supply chain, as a food production, supply chain, and consumption, and these are the entry points. And behind each of these intervention areas, there is a set of policy actions, which I will explain in the further PowerPoints, where we really want to inspire the member states to go on the ground. And in total, at the moment, we have about 31 of this policy. But now, with the extension of the project, we are also open to see where the gaps, what maybe have to be integrated, which we have overseen in this first phase. And also we want to pilot test this. We want to reach out in the first 3 months of the next year, talk with member states, talk with the focal points, and see if it's really the right way. Is it practical? We still are wanted to really improve this, and the official launch of the website, and I give more explanation on the website, will be in February, probably around UNEA. That's one of the ideas, to really then you could click on the website and have all the information. At the moment, it's in the computer and it has to bring on the website. We really wanted to roll out. So we wanted to roll out at a global level. We will also translate all the material in Spanish and in French. We want to do global webinars to explain what's in this guidance tool, and also, as already mentioned, go on the ground in 5, maybe 6 countries to really work with the stakeholder and to develop together a roadmap. And we're always looking for the update of the NDCs in 2025, and then to have hopefully 100% of the NDCs aligned with a food system approach. And that's a little bit now a short snapshot how the website will look like. So if you open the website, then you will have a landing page, and we call it the Food Forward NDCs. You know, we always need acronyms, and that was we get out of this advisory group. And from the landing page to a second page where we have the 5 intervention areas. So we really want to make it very simple. So then a member state who say, okay, I want to improve, for example, on food consumption, they go and click, and then they get offered a range of policy measures and options to improve food consumption in the NDC. As mentioned, it's an open list. So if if you realize there are still gaps, we now have the opportunity to improve and to extend. And if you then click on one of these options, you ended up, and this is just a summary, what is in the tool and in the guidance. These guidance are short or not short. They offer a list, and this is, I think, one of the most important part: a list of implementation measures, which are very concrete, which are very dedicated, but they are global. So at the end, we have to go on the ground, and that's why it's good that we could work with the member states and to explore what is required at a national, maybe even at a regional level. And we will work with the stakeholders, we will work with the ministries, but also with all who maybe will be involved in this process. A second thing which over this tool is information about the co-benefits. So we have explored also the co-benefits in context with the SDGs, because this is still one of the targets the member states are working on. We have identified co-benefits in context with adaptation, and we have also think about what are the challenges. So what are the trade-offs? Yeah, what are the externalities in this context? So also to raise awareness on that point. And one thing which is really important are the costs. So we also have tried to calculate how much it is if you want to do implementation. So I think this is the next step. It's nice to have targets, but if there is no financial support behind, it's always a problem. So therefore, that's also something if member states are calculating and want to do the one or the other intervention, they also get an idea what it is about and also what are possible financial opportunities. And finally, we think it's super important to have monitoring, and therefore there is a long list on monitoring tools. So it's all connected already to existing material. In this case, so to help member states really to monitor the outcome and to see if they are successful. And by the way, what I forgot to mention, under the measures, we also have the mitigation, the greenhouse gas mitigation reduction potential, so that member states really could calculate this. And finally, and I think this is also important, we want to really help member states to learn what already is going on. So really to showcase concrete examples, so that also if somebody maybe is interested to learn more about improving, I'm just coming from the soil day event, improving soil health, so they could cases and they could contacts, so that they could reach out to other member states, so really to help to build up also a kind of peer review, peer-to-peer exchange, sorry. So that's the overall setting. This is ready, and as mentioned, we put it on the websites. We have to fix some technical things and hopefully to launch it then in February, and we could click on and member state could start to work. And I personally would like to thank all the partners, and I see Amanda is sitting here from the NDC partnership, who gave us a lot of support. It's the FAO with Julia, it's Felicitas. So thanks to everybody. Thanks also to CGIAR Biodiversity with the team. Was only possible to get where we are today in working together. And I see Dada, and she's she's also a little bit the brain behind everything. So she will also give a little bit insight on the thoughts of the co-presidency. So thank you for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Martina. This is really great. I mean, after having worked in government for so many years, I really find the value in this tool. I also think it's great that you're going to pilot it and that you are also considering all the benefits and the cost for the different stakeholders to utilize it. I will now move on to Mr. Kaveh Sahedi, who is the Director of Climate Change, Biodiversity and Environment at FAO, who is going to talk to us about the importance of mitigation and adaptation in the food sector and the stronger alignment that we need with national transformation pathways.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here amongst the family, as was said before, especially with my boss of last week and partner of this week, Dr. Ismahan. Um, what you've asked me to speak about, I think the previous speakers have captured really well. I mean, we're at a stage where this connection between food and climate is understood much better than ever before, right? That climate is having undeniable impacts on agriculture. The agricultural communities are on the front line of those impacts. At the same time, of course, the way we produce our food is contributing to a changing climate, and that's the sort of a downward spiral that we are putting ourselves in. Um, I guess one of the important starting points from our perspective is when you talk about food and even in a climate context, is to recognize that our food systems right now are still leaving, around 700 million people living in hunger. That's the starting point that we have to deal with as we try to resolve how to, produce more with less, how we can deal with a growing population and feeding a growing population and bringing people out of hunger, addressing SDG 2 at the same time as remaining within our planetary boundaries, helping the movement towards the 1.5 degrees, and of course, building the adaptation and resilience that's already necessary, no matter what we do. Part of doing that, hi Susan, sorry, I hadn't seen you. Part of doing that for us in the climate sphere was obviously getting the NDCs to recognize this connection, and it wasn't always there. And it's taken quite a lot of work with countries to look at the potential of agri-food systems in terms of upping their ambition for emission reductions, but also in terms of upping their ambitions in terms of building resilience and adaptation. I mean, where is it that you need to adapt? Often, for so many countries, it is in the agricultural communities that are, as I said, are on the front lines. The NDCs that you mentioned, the analysis shows that many of them now recognize food and agriculture. I think over 90% have a reference, certainly prioritizing adaptation in agri-food systems, and over half of them explicitly looking at what that means for vulnerable groups. So the adaptation in food systems is probably understood. Mitigation ambition in agri-food systems is also something that increasingly is seen in these NDCs. Over 80% of them now include sort of AFOLU, the agricultural, forestry, and other land use sector, in contribution to mitigation, which is good because it helps, I hope, raise ambitions of what can be done. And almost half of these include sector-specific GHG emission reduction targets. So this is all good news. As was said before by Martina, it's not just in the NDCs that we have to look at this. We have to look at this in the context of the NAPs. We have to look at this in the context of the NBSAPs. These planning instruments are raining down on countries. We have now the food system pathways as well. These are just a few of them. And really, as I've said before, sort of the golden thread that connects all of these is the agri-food system solutions. They are solutions when it comes to NDCs and upping ambition. They are solutions when it comes to building resilience and adaptation and NAPs, but they're also solutions when it comes to sustainable use of biodiversity. And for all of these reasons, and we have been working very hard on many kinds of support packages for countries. And the one that's being unveiled today is going to be a really important additional tool, sort of in the endeavor of making sure agri-food system solutions are central. And we've now been given a platform because with the COP28 presidency, someone said Dada's in the room. Oh, there she is. Okay, well, first time I see you. Thank you, Dada. No, it's look, we've been given an amazing platform, right, by this presidency. It's unprecedented. Food, the declaration, it's a great declaration. It shows real ambition. The COP28 Agriculture, Food and Climate National Action Toolkit that we're working on to make sure that that declaration can quickly be operationalized, which is where this, of course, fits in as well. And all of this is to sort of unlock the agri-food system transformation that's needed. But I have to, make a comment, and I don't know how many of us can intervene and make a difference on this. But we are still operating in two parallel worlds at this COP. high ambition of the UAE presidency, COP28, the declaration, what's going to come on food, agriculture, and water day, and not quite the same in the official process, right? If you look at what's going on in the Sharm el Sheikh joint work, it's disappointing to say the least. If we're going to come out of this with another one of those same outcomes like June, that's quite disappointing. You know, the duality of a declaration and that is quite disappointing. You mentioned the global stocktake. You know, the global stocktake, the analysis that went into it very clearly said we're not on track. And to get on track, we need system change. What are the systems that need to be changed? Surely the agri-food system is primary amongst those. It isn't mentioned once in the document on the global stocktake. So we're living in these parallel worlds right now, and I hope that we can do some course correction in the next few days, because it's really urgent. It's really, really urgent that we don't live in these sort of two parallel worlds. And the danger of living in these two parallel worlds is while attention is increased, while the tools are getting better and more refined, while we understand the solutions that are on offer, the investments are not matching the potential, right? We still have a minute amount of climate finance going to agri-food system solutions. Look at it overall, you know, private, public, everything at the project level is around 4%, which is of course not enough. If we're 30% of the problem, give us 30% of the money. I mean, it's a simplistic solution, right? But you have to go along this kind of direction. Even if you look at climate tagged ODA, which is the narrower window, it's less than 20% is going to agri-food system solutions, and that number is on the decline. So less and less each year. And I think that's why it's important to bring these two worlds of the negotiations and the presidency more closer together and align it with the kind of ambition that you see in all of the programs and projects that we are running together and the tools that we're creating to raise ambition. So all of that to really say we're super committed to the UNFCCC process. We're very committed to the Sharm el Sheikh joint work on and all of the ambition that we think it has of bringing into operation all the sort of the promise of Coronivia, all of the elements that were in Coronivia. That's why we're supporting countries on their NDCs, on their NAPs, on their MVSAPs, on their food system transition pathways. That's why we're working at the community level to then bring that to life, to demonstrate that actually you can implement those very same ambitious NDCs, and you can do so in a way that helps communities build resilience while addressing the other urgencies that they face, especially, of course, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and addressing their food security challenges. So all of that is to say thank you for inviting me here. I'm really delighted that we're a partner with all of you all, and we've got a lot of work to do over the next few days, but you can always count on us as a partner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kaveh. I really think it's very important that you to highlight and to follow this mindset where we don't have mitigation on one hand, adaptation on the other. Everything is part of exactly the same agenda. And I shouldn't even be saying that. But we do need reminding ourselves of that. And then on the importance of bringing together the initiatives, the pledges, and the negotiation. At the end of the day, it's the same actors. So it shouldn't really be that difficult. So thank you very much for that. I will now give the floor to Dr. Hope I pronounce your name correctly, Ismahane El-Wafi, who is the Group Executive Managing Director of CGIAR. And congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mariam. And it's my first event in our joint pavilion as well, which is really good, which is good. So really happy to be with you today for the launch of NDC's toolkit for agriculture and food system, and the pleasure that CGR it's a member of this coalition. I think the two speakers before me covered it very well. It's very important that we are coherent. So we develop the tools. The tools is part of the decision making. We provide the right capacity building, the right support for the government to embed the toolkit in their programs and agendas and way of monitoring how the things are moving. So definitely this COP it's quite remarkable, as you said, Kaveh, in the fact that they brought food agri-food system at the center of the discussion. We saw it in COP27. It started a little bit. Now we see it really with the declaration. I couldn't agree more with you that really this two parallel path has to move closer. We need really to stop having so many standards and so many ways of measuring things. And congratulations for the BMZ for really financing and championing the toolkit. So the launch of the toolkit, it's an important step in ensuring that the way we grow, the way we transport, the way we process, we store, the way we trade, the way we consume food becomes a solution of the climate crisis. And the agri-food system in many ways has lost many opportunities to come in the forefront. So I think this year and maybe in recent years it's better. But imagine if we did this 18 years ago. Energy was just starting and we start talking about finance for really climate mitigation and adaptation. So we have to catch up. We have to catch up with other sectors and we have to catch up. And the only way to do it is really by having very strong evidence. That strong evidence, yes, we are within 30%. But while we are doing that, we are nourishing the planet. So we can't put nourishing and food by side. We can't. It's not like comparing us moving faster from 10 kilometer an hour to 100. We could still stay within the 10 kilometer if need be, but it's not like comparing food. It's not the same sector as energy, for example. Nonetheless, energy has taken the biggest bucket. They got the most of the investment, and hence they moved much faster than the agri-food system. So now what we need to do really it's work together. Let's find the numbers, the data, the information, the science behind to showcase really how much sector is emitting, but how much is also the sector taken from the air, how much we are really sequestering of carbon, and if there are different methodologies to sequester more. Some of it is in the genetic, and there is now data that shows that certain, for example, certain forages makes that the cows have 30%, 40% less methane. There is methodologies in the practice that showcase we could sequester more carbon. So if we can find the science to both explain how much we are sequestering right now, how much we can sequester with certain other methodologies, we could become really the solution sector. And then the onus is on us as actors within the agri-food system to showcase that. And the donors have to help us with funding in science and innovation to find that information, to bring that information together so that we make a case that this sector not only is very important for transformation, so we stay within planet boundaries, but also it's important to help us really nourish the people and nourish the planet and have this prosperity that we all strive for. So the NDCs are the benchmark against which we measure progress, hold ourselves accountable, and inspire collective action. The formulation of these targets must be rooted in science. It is science that provides the foundation for us to understand the problem and also to understand how we solve the problem. And thank you very much, Martina, for showcasing, for showing us how the tool works. Seems very straightforward. What I want to really end with is that the reality of the population growing, the reality of inequalities, the reality of people having to choose between producing or not producing. It's realities that we're going to see more of in the future. As the planet is warming, we will have trade-off. We will have a lot of trade-off, and we will have to take a decision. And I feel really sorry for many national programs. I don't think any of us want to be a minister of agriculture in any of the countries that have to deal with those really choices. So what we need to do, as I said earlier, it's provide them with the data. It's a little bit make at the global level a narrative that showcase agri-food system as a solution, so that 30% that we are emitting, we could reduce it to, I don't know, 15, 10%, but also that we need to account for any ecosystem services we are doing right now that we are not measuring because we don't have capacity to do it. So I always say, car cannot decarbonize the air. It cannot sequester carbon, but a plant can, an ocean can, a soil can. So if we explain to the world that we should be able really to not only account for what we are doing right now, that has to reflect into incomes to farmers, but also we could do better to increase our capacity of sequestration and our capacity of cleaning up the air and cleaning the planet. So CGR stand ready to work with countries to design more ambitious NDCs that include the transformation of agri-food system as a critical strategy to deliver on climate solution. And my last word is that we need science, we need data, we need innovation, and we need to reflect what's happening in nature properly by finding the right methodologies to really account for it, quantify it, and make it part and parcel of the economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ewafi, for highlighting the importance of data, of science, but also the importance of making it accessible for everyone and readily available for politicians to make decisions. I will now give the floor to Dada Imelda Bakuda from the UAE presidency.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here because there's so many familiar faces. And actually, really, all my friends, most of my friends are in the room. And I know that I wear many hats. Some of you at the back, hello, my Vietnam friends. I'm also considered Vietnamese. Um, Over at the back is somebody I know from 20 years ago back in Uganda. And what I wanted to say is that for this, for what we are talking about, we're really talking about convening power of friendship, of relationship, of the presidency. And what we are talking about now is an output, a concrete output of this convening power of the presidency. So let's just talk about this very big declaration that just came out, which is, as of course many of you know, is the Emirati Declaration on Sustainable Agriculture, Resilient Food System, and Climate Action. 104 countries signed into it, and more are coming every day. So by December 10th, which is Food and Water Day, we hope to announce more that comes into it. But of course, since many are friends in the room, I know that you are also all cynical, right? So we're like, oh, another declaration. Every year, another declaration. So uh, I actually, and then I will just really center my talk today on friendship because I think the Ishman and Kave has really delivered the, the content, the science, the technical wisdom, and the rationale coming from IPCC on why we are doing what we are doing today. And about friendship, how does friendship and collaboration help implement Emirati Leaders Declaration? I called on all my friends in the room, which I know are all doing on the Emirati Declaration. It's really elevating food system into the climate space and vice versa. In really saying the transformation of the food system is essential to achieve 1.5 ambition of the Paris Agreement, and that we really need to focus on that. And I know some friends in this room are really doing amazing work from Asia Pacific to Martina to Julia, the Scala project. It's really what BM said has also funded, correct, right? Are really doing this in supporting countries to enhance the climate policy frameworks such as NAPs and NDCs. So I said, oh, we will try to implement the Emirati Declaration by launching an overall toolkit, which is called the 28 Agriculture, Food, Climate National Action Toolkit. And men of NDC Partnership, WWF, FAO Scala Project, Climate Focus, who else am I forgetting? CGIAR has contributed, uh, you come later, are gonna have together and I said, you have such amazing lessons learned in supporting countries in enhancing the climate policy frameworks. We need to put this together in a cohesive toolkit that will support countries to really enhance and revise their climate policy framework so that it is really delivering transformation. And under this overall toolkit, Martinez, NDC toolkit. Which is so exciting when we see the layout of how the website looks like, right? I can't wait. You're gonna push the button not on December 10 next year. It's going to be mentioned in December 10, right? So we are hoping that such toolkits like this will equip countries of the means to get to the right path. But Tave brought us to the attention that while the MRT presidency, it seems have such a high signal, national processes or the formal agenda, negotiated agenda within the convention seems to be, let's face it, lagging behind, right? Or actually not delivering agreement. And in fact, yesterday in the negotiation, the young NGOs started crying in the room. They're saying, stop. You guys, you did a great job. Not crying, but you did a great job delivering the message. So we really appreciate it. You're really pushing negotiators, hey, give us an agreement, right? So there's a very high level symbol from the presidency. And then we are kind of disappointed and sad and really sending the youth to tears with no agreement. So I'm very happy to say that we also created a decent story of friendship as well and collaboration. Now what I'm calling SES, Sharm el Sheikh Sport. It's a 3-year program with CGIAR, with FAO, with IFAD, with World Bank, with WWF, and building capacities of climate change focal points from ministries of agriculture who are going to be negotiators or are already negotiators and really bring their capacities up just to the level of good talking and negotiation, but understanding climate solutions. Okay, yes, madam. So hopefully, such um, such a support will not only implement Emirati Declaration and the goals that it has set for itself, but it's also gonna respond to a really gaping gap, and especially in terms of policy engagement for the agriculture sector. So with that, I just wanted my last call that I hope that COP28, it shows, at least for many in the room and for those who are assigned as agencies to help and support countries, that many of us are saying, "Oh, what a circus! What a what a show! It's just a show." This toolkit and all the bigger toolkits and the Sharm el Sheikh support for negotiation support, coming with help from CGIAR and all our friends, is an example of the convening power of the presidency in bringing this all together and leaving a legacy behind, which hopefully will be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the presidency for your leadership. I will now call on to the front panelist, Ms. Amanda McKee, Director of Knowledge and Learning in the NDC Partnership, Bernard Moro from the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development from Kenya, and Dr. Pham Ngoc Mao, who is the Deputy Director General of the International Cooperation Department in the Ministry of Agriculture in Vietnam. I don't know where he is. Yes, there. Please come to the front. We had prepared a set of questions, but we are running very late. We're running behind. So I'm just going to ask each of you the same question, which I'm sure you will be you will be able to answer very, I don't know if easily, but you will be able to answer because it's a difficult question. So what you are all into NDC implementation and its relation, and you know about this relationship to food system. So what is the main challenge and the main opportunity you see from each of your perspectives to really incorporate food systems into NDCs, into the next round of improved NDCs? Please, Amanda.
All right. Well, thank you. And a complicated question, and I'll try to give you a simple answer because this is exactly what we're thinking about right now, not just from the food systems perspective, but from everything. And Martina talked about the global stock take, and I think the key takeaways that we had from that is that we not only need to raise ambition, but we need to increase financing to make that happen. And it's a self-fulfilling cycle. If the financing doesn't come, it's going to be harder for countries to raise ambition. And so I really see the challenges, let's say, in integrating food systems, and but also this is the opportunities where the partners in the room can support. The first one is helping countries to understand what the opportunities are. And this is why toolkits like this are so critical. The second one is ensuring that the support is available to then implement the needs that they have to bring that to life. And then the third one is actually the financing. And I mentioned that third, but actually we should be thinking about that all the way from the beginning as part of this process. And so not just thinking about how we're raising the ambition of the NDC on paper, but thinking holistically about what the financing needs will be. We've done a lot of work with EFAD over the last months, and we'll continue to do that next year exactly along those lines.
Thank you very much. It was indeed very, very straightforward. So thank you for that. Bernard?
Thank you very much. I come from a country where agriculture is a mainstay. We look at it as the one that contributes most to the economy, and most of our people rely on it. Now, when you look at agriculture and you look at the emissions around food systems in Kenya, if you take the emissions around food systems, not just food production. Right now, we are looking at 50% of the national emissions. So that is quite huge in terms of the amount. And this is something that we did with a study from CGIAR. I'm happy that the global lead of CGIAR was here. So the big challenge is the fact that one is that we don't really have tools like what we are seeing right now to be able to give that evidence to the government that emissions from food systems is quite huge. Yeah, so for us that is a very big challenge, and of course, if we overcome that challenge, showing that evidence, then the next big thing, and this is what we have been talking about, Dada talked about it here, is the issue of financing. Yeah, how do we put equivalent funding? I heard what Director Kavi was saying. Emissions 30%, investment is 4%. How do we get a way of bridging that investment gap which is there to be able to address issues around food systems and the emissions coming out of that, and the fact that agriculture needs to be a solution. I also like what you said in terms of we keep looking at some of these sectors in terms of either adaptation or mitigation and sticking. Agriculture is both adaptation and mitigation. That is something we shouldn't forget. And I think we need to have tools that can have evidence to show us that, yes, as we do, for example, climate smart agriculture, which my country is emphasizing on, in terms of adaptation, these are the core benefits. I think Martina brought it out very nicely. I mean, we are looking at a tool that can be able to give us evidence, not just on the core benefits, but the costs. Yeah, so we still have a challenge there, and if we can be able to address that, I think that can be a very good, looking at things in the food system. So we have policies, we have structures, but tools like this, the data that we require to be able to show that evidence, and of course the funding that can be able to address some of the challenges that we have there is still a critical problem.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mao?
Thank you. In Vietnam case, you know that our Prime Minister commit that we will get neutral in 2050. 2050 is very close. And when he come back, all the brands in Vietnam have to start changing their way to work, to cultivate, to produce in order to reduce the emission. And in Vietnam, the government have just approved national action plan for reducing the emission, and rice agriculture sector is included into this national action plan. And in Vietnam, you know that in the past we consider the cultivation, rice cultivation is emission sector, emissions activity, and now we want to change it from emission sector to contribution into the emission reduction for rice cultivation. And that's why we have a national action plan, including the rice sector into that plant. The challenge is, of course, you know that normally the farmer who cultivate the rice and harvesting and selling and exporting it and get the money, nobody lets them to reduce the emissions. So how to share their duty on emission reduction? Government need to support it, and the Vietnam is the developing country. That's why we strong commit, and we also need the community, international community, to support us to share with the farmer, with the poor farmer. They are very how to say heavy duty for to reduce the emission, yeah, and try to make the rice cultivation from the emission sector to become contribute to the emission reduction. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much to the panelists for giving us a very, very practical perspective on the integration of food system into NDCs. We are just on time to finish, so I will now turn to Ms. Susan Gardner, who is the Director of the Ecosystem Division from UNEP, to give us concluding remarks. Please.
We'll probably get there we go. Great insights. Thank you from the panel. You know, so much has been said now. And so rather than contributing more thoughts to this very rich conversation, maybe the best thing I can do is just sort of summarize some of the key things that I've heard from all of the really important voices that you brought together here. It was clear that there's this need now for transformation of our food systems. That has been clearly stated why everyone, FAO, right from the beginning said a connection between food and climate is well understood. And food is both threatened by climate and it contributes to it. Kavit actually described this as a downward spiral that is challenging to achieve climate stability and feed the global population at the same time. This is our challenge. We have to do it sustainably. We have to do it equitably. We have to do it with a just transition, which is one of the themes of today's COP. And we do this through having a well-being for nature, ensuring healthy diets, reducing waste. All of this requires real policy changes. Systemic approaches have been lacking, and we heard that from WWF, we heard that from Germany, we heard that from others. Kenya indicated that when we have evidence, clear evidence, then we can show that differences between costs and benefit and allow policymakers to move in the right direction, but this has been a major challenge. We heard also from Kenya that making the case for equivalent levels of funding for agriculture needs to be seen as part of that solution because of the clear importance for both mitigation and adaptation. But we also heard a key message in terms of practical positive solutions. And much congratulations to the UAE for the Emirates Declaration that really shows us the ambition that is needed now. And envisioning that convening power of the presidency, convening friendships to really elevate food systems into the climate space, convening friends, keeping non-state actors engaged. And we were all very happy, I think, to see that there's gaining more and more every day. The lack of knowledge on how to do this has been a real impediment, and this toolkit, we've heard from everyone, this has been needed. This guidance has been needed. It's essential to do this with member states and stakeholders on the ground who are really there at the tip of the spear, who need this information to make it work. And Vietnam gave us such a great example of where rice can be changed from an emissions sector to the contributing sector, as long as there's a clear national action plan. And finally, I'd say the third key message is about mainstreaming this across not only NDCs, but MBSAPs and all the other actions to meet the various important commitments of the MEAs. We have these as a roadmap. And when we work together, we can accelerate the impact. CGIAR made such a good point in terms of the importance of being coherent, the importance of urging us to ensure that we have strong evidence to catch up urgently with science, with data, and with innovation. And FAO said, this is good news. We have good news. Sector-specific approaches that include the NAPs, that include MBSAPs, that include the food system pathways from the Food System Summit, they all offer the solutions. These are the opportunities. Germany's support has been so essential for this toolkit as a coherent policy approach. Everyone is encouraged to use it to keep agri-food central. And then the next steps, as you reminded us, 2050 is right around the corner. WWF and FAO and others all said, and you as well said, finance is what's needed now. We don't have enough. In some cases, it's declining. Communication is needed. We need to ensure that we're monitoring to learn from our successes, but also improve where we need to. We need to connect between high ambition that we see in this declaration that we all say, yes, this is needed, and the negotiations across the street in the green zone. And I just, again, my congratulations and appreciation to CGIAR for that vision of leading the way to show us how this is done through science evidence, food system transformation, climate transformation, while ensuring healthy food for all. Overall, we heard everyone's commitment to this, and great appreciation to all the partners who made this possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this great summary and the hopeful words. This takes us to the end of our program. I wish you a wonderful rest of the call and see you soon again.